In the last episode, we witnessed a poignant moment as Jun Won unveiled a new room for Do-hee in his apartment. As Do-hee began unpacking her belongings, her eyes suddenly landed on a scrunchie. She quickly deduced that it might belong to Cha Yuna, especially since Jun Won had mentioned that someone stayed in the room for 2 weeks a while back. This led Do-hee to speculate that Cha Yuna might have lived with Jun Won before they ended their marriage. At the mart, Jun Won casually asked Do-hee if there was anything else she couldn't eat besides seafood. As Do-hee began listing her food aversions, Jun Won teasingly remarked that her palate was as picky as the little kid who lived next door to him. Setting aside the teasing, Do-hee abruptly questioned Jun Won about his past relationships. Since he had told her he wasn't into serious relationships, she wondered if he had many flings. Jun Won nonchalantly replied that he didn't really remember and immediately turned the question back on her. Do-hee responded similarly, saying she also didn't remember. Despite the casual conversation, Do-hee couldn't shake the thought of the mysterious scrunchie in Jun Won's apartment. Suddenly, Jun Won held up an angry bird stuffed toy and teased Do-hee, saying it looked like her. When Do-hee became visibly upset, he further provoked her by adding that the toy resembled her more and more. Ignoring him, Do-hee started to walk away. Jun Won tried to stop her, but when she didn't listen, he grabbed her and urgently called her by her first name. Hearing Jun Won call her by her first name for the first time made Do-hee's heart race. Just then, someone called out to Do-hee from behind. It was Nuri, standing there, looking surprised to see Jun Won and Do-hee together. As Nuri and Do-hee settled down for a coffee, Nuri immediately questioned Do-hee about the sudden progress in her relationship with Jun Won. Do-hee replied that it all happened so unexpectedly. Nuri then mentioned, that's why Ian was acting like. Hearing Ian's name, Do-hee eagerly asked what Ian was up to these days since she hadn't been able to reach him. Promptly, Nuri called Ian, noticing Do-hee's curiosity. When Ian picked up the call, Nuri casually asked what he was doing. Ian shouted that he was in the middle of a game and would rank down if he lost, so unless it was important, he was hanging up. As he disconnected, Nuri told Do-hee that Ian had turned into a game junkie. She explained that when Ian performed poorly in a competition or faced serious problems, he would lock himself up and play computer games all day. Shifting the conversation, Nuri asked Do-hee if she was planning to give Jun Won a housewarming gift. Do-hee questioned why she should do that. Nuri explained that living in such a luxurious apartment was a dream for most people, so it was only fitting to give Jun Won a gift. Sliding a neatly wrapped present across the table, Nuri suggested that Do-hee give this shirt to Jun Won, mentioning that she originally bought it for her boyfriend but could easily buy another one. Nuri added that the shirt was very popular among guys these days and that Jun Won would surely like it. Do-hee arrived at the apartment with a move-in gift, second-guessing her decision to accept it from Nuri. As Jun Won opened the door, she hastily placed the gift in his hands and headed to her room, casually telling him it was a move-in gift. Jun Won grinned at the unexpected gesture, but his smile quickly faded when he opened the gift. He was bewildered to find elephant-shaped underwear with a note saying, "Here comes the elephant toot toot." When Do-hee emerged from her room after freshening up, Jun Won confronted her, asking if she didn't think they were too new in their relationship to exchange such personal gifts. Annoyed, Do-hee replied that it was just a gift and that people didn't need to be extremely close to exchange presents. She added that if he didn't like it, he could just give it back and she would find someone else to give it to. Curious, Jun Won asked who she planned to give it to. Do-hee responded that since it was made for men, maybe she could give it to Ian. Hearing Ian's name, Jun Won quickly changed his tune and agreed to keep the gift, declaring he would wear it after all. Do-hee sternly ordered Jun Won to put on the gift immediately, wanting to see if it fit. Jun Won exclaimed in disbelief, "Right now?" To which Do-hee retorted, "Yes, why not, don't you want to?" Reluctantly, Jun Won stopped arguing and went into his room to change. While waiting, Do-hee received a message from Nuri asking if she had given Jun Won the gift. Do-hee replied that she had and even told him to try it on to ensure it fit. Nuri responded with a simple LOL and a smiley emoji. Suddenly, Jun Won emerged from his room. Seeing him in his usual clothes, Do-hee asked, puzzled, "Why aren't you wearing the gift?" Jun Won replied, "I am wearing it." Confused, Do-hee watched as Jun Won loosened his pants, revealing the elephant-shaped underwear. Mortified, Do-hee exclaimed, "What the hell is that? Why are you wearing that horrendous underwear?" Jun Won showed her the note and reminded her that she had given him the gift. Reading the note again, Do-hee realized Nuri had pranked her. As Jun Won stepped closer, Do-hee shouted in horror, urging him not to come near her with that ridiculous thing on. Jun Won teased, "You insisted that I put it on, and now you don't want me near you?" Flustered and embarrassed, Do-hee explained that Nuri had told her it was a shirt and insisted she give it to him, so he should take it off immediately. After coming back from changing out of the underwear, Jun Won burst into laughter at the absurdity of the whole situation. Suddenly, Dohee told him it was time for bed and that he should go to sleep. Surprised, Jun Won asked, "Why already?" Dohee advised him to get some rest since they had to go to work the next day. Stepping closer, Jun Won commented, "It's our first day living together. Do you want to sleep in my room tonight? Especially since I received that elephant underwear as a gift." Dohee reiterated that Nuri had played a prank on them and that it wasn't her doing. But Jun Won, undeterred, suddenly kissed Dohee's palm and remarked how cute she looked when flustered. Without warning, he grabbed Dohee, lifted her in his arms, and carried her to his bedroom. Under the beautiful moonlight, they spent their night together, marking a memorable first day in their new living arrangement. Jun Won's mother tearfully confided in him, saying his father was an incredibly irresponsible person. She lamented that she had been as free as a bird, but his father had caged her in this studio and turned his back on her. Despite his careless abandonment, she chose to stay and take responsibility for Jun Won. She admitted that if she hadn't had Jun Won, she would have been studying abroad by now, living freely, and traveling the world. She then asked Jun Won if he loved her, to which he nodded in agreement. However, his mother started crying, calling him a liar and accusing him of being just like his father. Suddenly, Jun Won jolted awake from this nightmare. As he looked beside him, he found Dohee sleeping peacefully like an angel. Relieved, he hugged her and soon fell back to sleep. In the morning, Dohee was the first to wake up and found Jun Won sleeping while hugging her. Jun Won, noticing her gaze, asked why she was looking at him like that. He explained that he just wanted to see her morning face, something he hadn't been able to do last year. Flustered, Dohee quickly sat up and commented that she needed to get to the office early to prepare for a presentation, so she should get up now. At the breakfast table, Dohee sent a photo to Jun Won and asked him to forward it to his father. Jun Won agreed and then gently urged Dohee to start eating. As they ate, Jun Won asked, "Do you usually have breakfast?" Dohee replied that she usually didn't, finding it bothersome, but today she needed to eat well and stay sharp because that jerk Cha Yuna was coming in for a meeting at the office. Dohee then questioned Jun Won, "Doesn't it make you uncomfortable? You almost married her." Jun Won replied that it didn't bother him at all, as they were complete strangers now. Dohee expressed her frustration, wondering why Mr. Ha had even come up with the idea to involve her with Cha Yuna in the first place. Jun Won simply stared at Dohee without saying a word. Noticing his gaze, Dohee asked, "Why are you looking at me like that? Do I have something on my face?" Jun Won, nodding, beckoned her to come closer. When she did, he gently wiped her lips with his thumb and kissed her on the cheek. Taken aback, Dohee immediately asked, "What are you doing?" Jun Won grinned and replied, "Just giving you a good morning kiss." Dohee pushed Jun Won away, telling him firmly that from now on, he should ask for her permission before kissing her. Later, in the lift, Jun Won playfully asked, "Can I kiss you?" Then, in the parking lot, he asked again, "Can I kiss you?" Frustrated, Dohee stopped him from asking that question every single time, exasperatedly commenting that he should forget what she said and just do whatever he wanted. Jun Won stepped closer to Dohee and leaned towards her face. With her heartbeat increasing, Dohee closed her eyes, expecting a kiss. But when nothing happened, she opened her eyes to find that Jun Won had already moved away and was sitting in the car, calling for her to get in. Annoyed, Dohee thought about how childish this all seemed, especially since they were both nearly 30 years old. It felt as if a belated first love had taken hold of her, bringing out youthful, playful emotions she hadn't felt in years. At the company, Cha Yuna introduced herself to Jun Won and Dohee as if they were strangers. Jun Won, emphasizing his position, introduced himself as the chief manager of the KSS group. Watching Yuna's smile, Dohee grew increasingly concerned, hoping that Yuna would maintain a clear boundary between her personal and professional lives. During the meeting, Dohee passionately explained the idea of incorporating Chef Yuna's recipes into their meal kits, actively seeking suggestions from Yuna herself. Yuna enthusiastically commented that it sounded excellent and expressed her belief that the proposal would benefit her as well. Jun Won interjected, stressing that they were already behind schedule, and he hoped that Yuna would make a prompt decision on the contract. After a brief pause, Yuna agreed, but she added a condition: she wanted everyone to know that she was only doing this because of Baek Dohee. A colleague from the office, sensing an unexpected familiarity between Yuna and Dohee, asked if they knew each other. Yuna promptly replied, confirming that they were very close and practically grew up like family, almost like sisters. Yuna elaborated, emphasizing Dohee's remarkable intelligence and independence from a young age. She revealed that Dohee's father was immensely proud of her, sponsoring her to attend Yuna's school. This demonstrated the profound depth of Dohee's connection to her family. In the office, nobody had ever looked at Dohee with pity, instead, they regarded her with admiration and approval. But now, Dohee could sense the carefully constructed image she had built for herself at work beginning to crumble. Dohee confronted Yuna on the roof, asking why she would bring up that topic from their childhood. Yuna countered, saying she hadn't made anything up, she simply told the truth. Stepping closer to Dohee, Yuna further questioned her about her relationship with Jun Won, asking if they were really just co-workers. Dohee shot back, asking why Yuna cared. Yuna replied that Dohee already knew that she and Jun Won had almost gotten married. Dohee retorted, reminding Yuna that it was just a formality engagement with the condition that neither she nor Jun Won expected anything from each other. Yuna countered, saying it didn't seem like Dohee knew anything when they ran into each other at the restaurant, even though it was a big deal that everyone around Jun Won knew about it. Yuna laughed, commenting that if Jun Won said Dohee was just a co-worker, then they weren't so close after all. Dohee sarcastically laughed and then, suddenly haltingly, leaned towards Yuna, telling her that she should stop getting under people's skin and belittling them just to boost her own self-esteem. She added that the more Yuna did it, the more obvious it was that her self-esteem was at rock bottom. Getting angry, Yuna raised her hand to slap Dohee, but suddenly the sound of the doors opening echoed. Yuna turned to see Jun Won standing there and started to explain that it wasn't what it seemed. Suddenly, the sound of a slap echoed in the air. It was Dohee who had slapped Yuna. With a cold demeanor, Dohee stated that Yuna needed to learn to finish what she started and that she should have slapped her the moment she raised her hand. With teary eyes, Yuna questioned Dohee why she had done that, as she had already apologized for being brash. Dohee laughed and then, to Yuna's shock, slapped her again, this time on the other cheek. Yuna wanted to slap Dohee too, but she glanced at Jun Won and, with a pleading tone, called out his name. However, Jun Won ignored her and ordered Yuna to go downstairs and sign the contract. Yuna was shocked to hear this. Jun Won further instructed her to sign the contract before leaving, as her agency's representative was waiting downstairs. Dohee started to laugh out loud at the situation, sarcastically commenting on how hilarious Yuna and Jun Won were. With that, she left the terrace, slamming the door behind her. Yuna immediately grabbed Jun Won's hand, exclaiming that Jun Won had seen Dohee hit her. Jun Won pulled back his hand, questioning, "So what? You want me to take your side? Before you complain about getting slapped, you should reflect on your own actions as well." Yuna was taken aback, asking how he could say that to her when they used to be engaged. Jun Won advised Yuna to cut out the useless drama, as he didn't need personal matters interfering with work. Yuna, frustrated, couldn't help but express her frustration at Jun Won's response. Back in the office lobby, Mr. Ha and other colleagues began talking about Dohee, discussing how she projected a rich girl attitude when, in reality, she was just an orphan from a poor background. In the midst of their conversation, Dohee walked into the lobby. She headed towards the vending machine, casually taking a Coke, and remarked that it sounded like they were having an interesting conversation, so why not continue while she was there? She expressed curiosity about what they were discussing. Suddenly, Mr. Ha was at a loss for words. Dohee stepped closer to him and told him it might have seemed easy to pick on her since she might have gone from rags to riches, but that didn't mean she would ever consider dating someone still in rags. With that, she walked away bluntly. Later that night, Dohee explained everything that had happened to her to Nuri. Curiously, Nuri asked what Jun Won had said. Dohee replied that Jun Won had simply told Yuna to go downstairs and sign the contract. She added that it wasn't that she wanted Jun Won to slap Yuna too, but his attitude had somehow pissed her off. Suddenly, Dohee received a call from Jun Won. Seeing this, Nuri asked if that was why Dohee hadn't been picking up Jun Won's calls and how long she intended to keep it up. Dohee, feeling embarrassed, stated she didn't know but maybe she would pick up on the third call. After waiting for a while, Jun Won didn't call again. Seeing this, Nuri commented that now Jun Won had stopped calling, which was great. Suddenly, Dohee's phone rang again, and she immediately picked it up to see that it was a message from Jun Won asking about her whereabouts and urgently calling her home. Dohee read the messages Jun Won sent, continuously pleading for her to come home as he wanted to be with her at that time. Finally, Dohee breathed out heavily, feeling a bit calmer. On the other hand, Nuri was utterly shocked, as she had never seen Dohee act like this before. Around midnight, Dohee called Jun Won and told him that she was going to pick up his call on the third try, but he never called her for the third time, so she decided to call him first. Jun Won asked her if she was drunk and assured her that he would pick her up, instructing her to stay where she was. Ignoring his offer, Dohee questioned Jun Won about what he and Yuna had talked about when she went downstairs in the morning. Dohee began to drunkenly rant about how Yuna tried to deny everything and take everything that was rightfully hers, how she was desperate to ruin her life. She added that if she had been born with a silver spoon like Yuna, then simply maintaining what she had would have been enough for her. Suddenly, Dohee's voice stopped coming from the other side of the phone, and Jun Won realized he could only hear elevator noise and other cell phone sounds but nothing from Dohee. This meant the time loop had started. He informed Dohee that the time loop was beginning and assured her that he could hear everything, so she could just say everything she wanted to say in her head, as her voice was the only thing he could hear after all. Far away, sitting by the riverside, Dohee told Jun Won to bear with it for a moment, assuring him that they would see each other again soon. Tears fell from Dohee's eyes as she said this, and immediately, the time loop occurred. Dohee opened her eyes in bed with Jun Won in the morning of that day. Jun Won advised Dohee to forget all the hurtful things from the previous day and start fresh today. With sadness in her eyes, Dohee asked Jun Won why he had done what he did yesterday. Jun Won teasingly asked, "Do what?" Dohee explained that she meant after Cha Yuna humiliated her like that, how could he start talking about the contract right away? She advised Jun Won to increase his emotional sensitivity by just 1%. Jun Won grabbed Dohee and kissed her, then amusingly stated, "Look, 1% sensitivity charged." In the parking lot, Jun Won asked, "How is she going to change today?" Dohee replied, "Well, if you're that curious, then you should close your eyes for a sec." Jun Won, feeling a bit confused, still closed his eyes. Suddenly, the sound of a car startled Jun Won, and when he opened his eyes, he saw that Dohee was imitating the same posture he had done to her yesterday. This sight made Jun Won burst out laughing amusingly. At the company, everything unfolded as it had yesterday, and Yuna was just about to reveal Dohee's past. However, this time, Dohee suddenly interrupted Yuna and shared that she and Yuna were very close. They even went to the same school and grew up like a family, almost like sisters. Noticing Dohee's assertiveness, Yuna attempted once again to reveal Dohee's past, but Dohee again interfered, telling everyone that even their parents knew each other well and were quite close. They were even part of a group study together. Yuna, frustrated that Dohee was not letting her speak, tried once more to talk about Dohee, but this time Jun Won interfered, wishing everyone good luck and promptly wrapping up the meeting. After the meeting, Yuna, visibly irritated, started to head out. Suddenly, she tripped and fell. Seeing this, Dohee reached out to help Yuna with a sarcastic smile, advising that Yuna should have been more careful. Yuna immediately got up and left the company without saying anything. This time around in the lobby, everyone again started to talk about Dohee, but this time they discussed how powerful she must be, having attended the school where chaebol study. Dohee listened intently to her colleagues' conversation and felt a surge of satisfaction. She was glad that this time she had maintained her dignity and had also dealt a significant blow to both Yuna and Mr. Ha Dong-hyun. In the evening, Mr. Ha talked to someone on the phone and looked visibly disappointed. Dohee noticed his troubled expression and immediately questioned him about what was going on. Mr. Ha, looking perturbed, informed Dohee that Chef Cha Yuna had passed away in a traffic accident just a short while ago. Dohee's eyes widened in utter shock upon hearing that news. Back at the apartment, Dohee pondered deeply. Was it because of her that the future had changed? In a time loop, other people always acted exactly as they did before, so it was impossible for something unexpected to happen on its own. Thus, Dohee concluded that Yuna's death in an accident was probably an unfortunate event that unfolded because she changed the future. And with that, a pressing question lingered in Dohee's mind: what was she going to do now?